Welcome to the Never-Ending Backlog Podcast, your place for short reviews from a gamer with the goal of reducing his backlog. From adventures to sandboxes, join our host as we walk through a collection of unplayed treasures. Now, let's take a look at the featured game of this episode of the Never-Ending Backlog.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the next episode of the Never-Ending Backlog Podcast. I am your host, Zach, and today for our bite-sized PC game review, we will be reviewing the cult sensation F.E.A.R. Not sure it's actually a cult sensation, but I remember it from many years ago, and I always have fond memories of it and its advertisements. So, I remember when F.E.A.R. came out in 2005, I was at my buddy's house and his parents had cable TV. I happened to live in the middle of nowhere, which basically means I had no internet, no phone, no cable TV my entire life, from birth all the way till I went to college and beyond. We saw a playthrough of F.E.A.R. on G4 TV. Remember that channel? They had like X-Play and all those type of games. Well, anyway, that's where I saw it, and I really wanted it since I really just started getting into PC gaming more at that time. And we actually had an internet cafe open up in the next town over. That was kind of a bigger town, and basically, I saw, I just really loved it there. I had a great time with it, and I played it there a few times. Their computers struggled a little bit playing F.E.A.R. They played Battlefield 2 and quite a few others, and they were more so in the multiplayer ones that didn't require GameSpy, because F.E.A.R. does require GameSpy for multiplayer. Kind of funny story jumping back into that gaming component when I had first started getting into it because of that internet cafe. My first gaming computer was actually an E-machine. I believe it was an Athlon 3200 because I wanted the 3400. But I had gotten it from my father as a gift because I wanted to play Battlefield 2 on it because of the internet cafe. I wanted to do it at home. And I saw a ton of television commercials for Battlefield 2. And this was on local TV. This wasn't, like I said, I didn't have cable TV, so this was on ABC, NBC, Fox, and stuff like that. So it was interesting to see PC games commercials back then. And there are quite a few of them from back then, not quite as much anymore. After setting up my new computer and installing my very first true video card, which I purchased from Staples, which was our best computer store within 100 miles, that also says something about our type of town that I live in, I had purchased Battlefield 2 at full price from, I think, a Walmart at that time that I had to drive quite a ways for that one. And I realized I had to have internet to play it. And since I had mentioned I lived nowhere near internet, I really couldn't play Battlefield 2 at my house. I'd have to keep playing at internet cafes and so on and so forth. Huge bummer. I don't think I actually ended up playing Battlefield 2 online until I'd gone to college, and by then it had already been replaced by, Battlefield 2142, Bad Company, and all those games as well. Anyways, F.E.A.R. F.E.A.R. is a first-person shooter, or FPS, produced by Sierra and Warner Brothers. It's kind of a psychological horror elements paired with gunplay and a relatively decent storyline. Jumping into resolution, graphics, audio, tech specs, oh man, this game was a challenge to get started. In fact, I tried for about an hour after installing it through Steam, which usually have relatively good luck even for games that are quite a bit older. Nope, was not having it. I quit after about an hour of it, and I decided, you know what? I have an old vintage Pentium 4 PC. It only has an NVIDIA GeForce 2, so it's below specs. But since I collect big box PC games, F.E.A.R. is not one of them. It's in my collection, so I was going to buy it. Unfortunately, the price was quite a bit higher than what I wanted with the box, because I do only purchase from the box when possible. So, kind of gave up on that as well. And then I decided I'm going to browse some forums and see if I can get it working on my own. Done it many times in the past. Figured there's probably some settings to get it fixed, especially since it is a relatively popular game. And like I said, it's sold on Steam and people probably want to get it to work. So there are a few steps that I take to get it to work to begin with. First of all, I had to disable my snowblind computer case. And those who might not know, the snowblind computer case is just my computer case itself. That instead of just a plain window on the side of my case like most gaming computers, it has a thin LCD screen there with no backing. So that allows you to project pictures and videos and all this stuff and treat it as a separate monitor screen while seeing through it into your computer case. Looks really cool. I have a fish tank set up on mine, so it looks like fish are swimming inside my computer. Works relatively well as long as you have white components and plenty of light on the inside of the case, since there is no back screen similar to a gaming, like an actual monitor and so on and so forth. But since this game was struggling, I basically had to disable that monitor because F.E.A.R automatically defaulted to that screen. So think of basically projecting F.E.A.R on the side of my computer case. Sounds cool. Not cool at all. So after disabling that, started playing the game a little bit, and man, the frames per second were terrible. Oh, it just dropped. It ran glitchy, looked terrible. Luckily, there is a DLL file out there that was released called Direct Input FPS Fix, and you can drop it in the root F.E.A.R folder, and then immediately it just greatly improved FPS. Like, I had no lag, no glitching. It was flawless, as you'd expect it to run on a newer computer. I also had to change my resolution to 1920 by 1080. There was a ton of resolutions that were supported, which is nice. I didn't try 5760 by 1080 because it was already running. And after getting it all set up, I basically was able to re-enable my snowblind computer case, so that way F.E.A.R would play on my center monitor, my two left and right one would stay black, and my snowblind case would go back to showing my fishies again. Wicked. So overall, not a terrible fix. You have to understand, this game did come out in 2005. It is 15 years old. Anything in my case was not invented back then. Not a single piece of it. So I understand. I get it. It makes sense. The music was very Matrixy, which I guess you'd expect considering that it's made by Warner Brothers. The other interesting thing is I had just watched the Matrix trilogy because my wife had never seen it. So we watched all three of them. So it was very nostalgia driven considering it was like the week before I decided to watch the Matrix, which worked out really well with F.E.A.R. It also, I'm going to say right now, why hasn't Warner Brothers made a F.E.A.R movie or trilogy or anything yet? It seems right up their alley. Psychological combat thriller action movie. I'd watch it all day. Sounds great. But I digress. Quality. Once everything got running up smoothly, the quality actually holds up pretty well. The gameplay is smooth. The controls are relatively straightforward. I think my biggest struggle was control activates slow-mo and C is crouch. And it just threw me off. And I'm not sure why, because traditionally I always use C for crouch. And I never use control for crouch. And usually control just does nothing. It just sits there unused. But for some reason, me doing it that way or having to use control, I just assume, oh, that must be crouch now, like those other games that aren't optimized or allow me to change my key bindings. But no, just threw me off. Storyline's really good. It is definitely spooky. I would have absolutely been terrified playing this game in 2005. It is, the eerie flickering lights and the jump in your face action and little children, which every terrifying thing has little children, just for some reason does. Also, the water details, and especially the reflections when you're in tunnels under like the bases, they're really nice. They are very smooth. The lighting on it looks really nice. It's a nice aqua color, and it has nice reflections. It seems very realistic. And for 2005, props. Well done, Sierra. Way to hold up. Gameplay, the SMG is the best weapon. I'm sorry. I've used the shotgun, rifle, and many of the other weapons. The SMG's just better. The accuracy is far, far better than the assault rifle. The shotgun's awesome. It's probably a close second for me. But the SMG is amazing, and you get so much ammo of it. It's weird. I never choose the SMG in games. It's not my choice. So, really interesting that the SMG is so good in this game. It's impressive that this game is 15 years old. It holds up really well. Online is down since it does run on GameSpy service. I know there's stuff out there to get it where, they have their own communities and all that stuff. Almost all popular games that have had deactivated services have backdoors and workarounds to play it. But like I said, it runs on GameSpy. I remember GameSpy because I hated GameSpy because, like I said, I lived down in the middle of nowhere and I could never play my games properly. And it always just seemed to really... Games that had GameSpy always seemed to neglect the LAN components, which is what I did. My friends would bring their CRT monitors and their big computers over. We'd hook up 4 of them on the kitchen table and just have a great time. And like I said, any of them that used GameSpy, their LAN services were always awful. I don't know why one is better than the other, but like games like Age of Empires and StarCraft and all those, LAN setup, easy peasy, no issue whatsoever. So anyway, GameSpy is dead. And yeah, that's pretty much it there on that one. So game pricing, this is interesting. I can't seem to buy F.E.A.R by itself anymore. It's included in the F.E.A.R Complete pack, which includes F.E.A.R, F.E.A.R 2 Project Origin, F.E.A.R 2 Reborn, which is the DLC, F.E.A.R 3, F.E.A.R Extraction Point, and F.E.A.R Perseus Mandate. It's also an ad with the pricing. It's an odd moment with the pricing because I have all of the F.E.A.R games right now, every one of them, except the Reborn DLC, which doesn't have a price associated with it. So I'd have to purchase the entire pack for $54.99, even though it shows the value of the pack is $34.99, since most of the games don't have prices available anymore. So, with that being said, if anyone at Warner Brothers is listening to this podcast, please say someone from Warner Brothers listening to this podcast, do you want to send me a copy of Reborn DLC to complete this package? I promise to do a review on the game. I just want to complete the entire F.E.A.R collection. I will play the other ones, and I'd really like to have the Reborn DLC. I'm not sure it's going to be amazing or terrible. I just, as a completionist inside me when it comes to collecting games, I'd really like to have it all, and there's no way I can get it, unfortunately. So, overall, I really enjoyed playing F.E.A.R. I remember playing the demo at the Internet Cafe, and that was pretty much it. And, it starts off with a car pulling up in the alley and you going and navigating through into the building and getting scared by the little girl. I'm not sure why I never ended up getting it earlier. There's no really, setbacks. I could have picked it up any time afterwards, especially since a big component of the game is single player. And I don't know why I never did. I think I'm actually going to certainly keep it. I'm going to beat it, and then I might likely uninstall it. And like I said, all the way back at the beginning is 2 things. F.E.A.R, Reborn, Warner Brothers, please send it. And then also, Warner Brothers, please make F.E.A.R into a movie. I would watch it. I'm sure there are others that would watch it. It doesn't seem like it has a huge, PC game following, like this huge cult group, even though I said it at the beginning of this episode. So I think, you could probably make a game out of it pretty easily, and I think it might be pretty awesome. So anyway, there's my 2 cents about F.E.A.R. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to beat it, and then I'll likely uninstall it. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Never Ending Backlog podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Zach, and today we reviewed F.E.A.R.